Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for serving with us this week and for watching this video to prepare. This Sunday, as we continue our theme 5K Run the Race by learning about commitment, making a plan and putting it into practice, our focus will be practicing talking about God. We will be instilling the truth that you need to make wise choices. In our Bible story from Matthew, we will hear about the time where Peter says that Jesus is the Messiah. Our verse for this month is, training the body has some value, but being godly has value in every way. It promises help for the life you're now living and the life to come. 1 Timothy 4:8. For our first opening activity, you're going to play a game of headbands. You'll give each kid a turn. They'll wear a headband. They'll get to pick an animal card that they don't see beforehand, and then they'll have to put it on their head and try to figure out what their animal is based on questions that they're asking the group and responses from the group. Once they guess their animal, you can move on to the next kiddo. And you want to let them know that today we're going to be practicing about talking about God. And so we're going to start off about talking about animals because that's something a little bit easier. Sometimes talking about God can be tricky. Next, you're going to play a game of telephone. So the kids circle up, and on your leader guide, there is some sentences that you will say. So choose one of them to start with. Tap a kiddo on the shoulder and let them know what that sentence is, and then they'll get to pass it on around the group. It's suggested to have the kiddos close their eyes and ears unless it's their turn. If they've felt the tap of the shoulder, then they can listen to what it is. Otherwise, have them close eyes and ears to make that go smoother. At the end, the person at the end will share what their final sentence is, and the person that started it off will compare and let the kids know what the sentence actually was when it started. And so we want to see that it could be a different message at the end. At the end of the game, you're going to use your leader guide after you go through the different sentences and let them know that it can be hard to hear the right things and to practice listening to what Jesus is saying. So in today's Bible story, we're going to hear about a time when Jesus asked a very important question, and one of his disciples gave an answer that showed that he had really listened. After your Bible story, you're going to play a game of Who Do You Say I Am? This is like the game Detective. Kids will stand in a circle. You'll choose one to be the person in the middle. That person will get blindfolded and kind of led off to the side so they don't see what you're doing. And then you're going to select somebody to be Peter. Peter will have the job of responding, Jesus is the Messiah, every time the blindfolded person in the middle says, Who do you say I am? The tricky thing is that person in the middle has to figure out who is being Peter, which kiddo is Peter. But all the other kids are going to try and confuse them by answering at the same time as Peter by saying things like, I am Santa Claus, I am Mr. Timmy, I am my mommy. Different things that may confuse that person and have them struggle to hear which person is Peter, which one is saying Jesus is the Messiah. So when that kiddo gets brought back into the middle and the game is going to start, they can take off their blindfold at that point. That way they can hear and see people talking and listen really carefully. Every time that they ask the question, who do you say I am? They will hear all of those responses all around them. And as soon as they're able to figure out who is Peter, who is the one who is saying Jesus is the Messiah, then that Peter becomes the new person in the middle. And you can choose a different kid to be Peter. After the game, there's a script of what to say on your leader guide to tie in the game to their Bible story about practicing talking about God to get better and better at it. Then our next activity, you're going to use the dice that we've made. It has different questions on it. Very simply, you'll take several turns around your circle, kids getting to roll the dice and answering specific questions like, what's your favorite thing about church? Or what's your favorite thing about small group? What's your favorite thing about God? Who's someone you can talk to about God? So lots of questions just to get them extra practice about talking about Jesus. While they're doing this activity, mention that it's not always easy to talk about God, and sometimes we can get scared of what others will think. But small group is a great way to practice talking about God and not have to worry about what others think. You can remind them with your leader guide has a script that they can practice talking about God at home too. Let them know how Peter was scared and became really brave about telling people about Jesus. And then that it can be scary at first. Tell them about a time where you had to share out about God, and maybe you were scared, but you overcame those fears and gained from that experience. Our final activity is going to be using pantyhose and tennis balls. So you're going to put the tennis ball in the end of the pantyhose, and the kids will do kind of relay style, where at the end of your space together, you will have these little cards that have them say the end of their memory verse, and they'll be covered up with a cup. So their job is, one at a time, when it's their turn, they're going to run down to where the cups are. They're going to turn around and swing the tennis ball with the pantyhose through their legs to knock the cup over. When they knock the cup over, then they will get to take the cup, the card, and run back down for the next person to do it. Then, once all the team has their phrases back, all 4 cards, they're going to put them in order and jump up and shout the completed phrase together. And the life to come, 1 Timothy 4:8. So we're focusing on the last part of their verse today. Then there's a short script of what to say to wrap up the game and encourage them to practice talking about God. While waiting for parents to arrive, hold up the cube activity again and remind them of some of their responses that they had. Tell them that you'll be asking them about next week about how they practiced talking about God throughout the week. And there's a script of what to say in your leader guide, as well as a prayer that you can pray to encourage them. When they are picked up, tell them that you want them to do 2 things already to practice sharing about God. Share with their family 1 thing that they love about God and what was their favorite activity from today. So they can share 2 things right away and practice talking about God. That wraps up our Sunday together. If you've watched this video in preparation for your small group Sunday, text Timmy the keyword TALK for a chance to win something awesome from him. Thank you again, leaders, for serving with us and for sharing with your kiddos week after week. Have a blessed week.